What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Max Caufield. I figure, with about a week or so left until we get to just re-experience this world, re-experience this character of Max, just wanted to have kind of a discussion video of, what Max means to me, why I like her so much, why I think she's just such a great character, and definitely, want to hear from you guys as well. I think, there's a lot of divisiveness, in the Life is Strange community, but if there's one thing that I do think kind of brings us all together, and honestly has been a thing that they focus very heavily on with Double Exposure, is our love of Max Caufield, right? Like, that is, I honestly think, above all else, the main selling point of no matter where you stand, it's Max. They decided to lead off of that. They decided that this was a character worth bringing back. And yeah, they had a story to tell, but I honestly assume that the love and just how many people would be interested in the game because of her is a big part of why they brought her back as well, which depending on how they handle her character, might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. But, well, what is it about her? Like, what makes her so special? Well, firstly, I've said this before, but I want to lay the groundwork of just kind of like rankings and whatnot. She is one of the greatest game characters I think ever created. I truly believe that, and that might be a jump. I don't know if I'd be willing to put her in like a top 5 kind of situation or anything like that. There's a lot of amazing game characters that go back, 20, 30 years. But when I think of just some of my absolute favorites, she is up there. And, I really, even the whole like male versus female thing, or like, she's one of the all-time great female characters, you can say, that's fair to say. That's something that I think is actually accurate to say. And if you were to just, push aside, the males and just focus on the females. But, honestly, I feel like that's almost a disservice to her as a character, because I think she can rank amongst anybody, right? I think those barriers don't even have to exist, and she would still be relatively high. I really believe that. So I just want to throw that out there in terms of she has always been one of my favorites, and then I guess in terms of why I like her, well, first thing I just got to shout out is Hannah Tell. We keep saying it over and over. For me, it's kind of almost like a funny joke. Whenever you hear any interview with Hannah or just have her talk or whatever, she literally is Max. I remember just a few days ago, my algorithm on YouTube, and hopefully it doesn't spoil me, as we get closer, but my algorithm is kind of flooded with like Life is Strange related things. So a lot of like past stuff, trailers for the past games, and some of the behind the scenes stuff. And I watched the video of the farewell episode, which I think is an amazing hour-and-a-half experience. And, it's the behind the scenes of Ashley Birch and Hannah Tell. And I forgot that Ashley Birch actually says that exact same thing 5-6 years ago, right? She says, to me, Hannah is Max. So like when she's talking and doing the voice work, like it just is Max Caufield standing next to her. And that couldn't be more true, right? Like that, I think that honestly gives it a huge advantage where Hannah just kind of takes what makes Max special, because that's kind of her. So I don't know. I want to just give her a lot of credit. I think her voice honestly has something to do with it too. Whenever you look at some of the comments, and we're going to go into like personality traits in a second, but I think honestly like the calmness and like the soothingness of Hannah's voice is a big thing. And I don't say that as like a creepy thing or, like I focus on it too much, but Max is just a very like soft character, and it comes through in her personality as well. But even just the voice is just easy to listen. Some, even including myself, I've had people tell me they can't watch too much of my videos because of my voice. And honestly, I get that. If you're listening to something, any game, anything, any movie, any TV show, if you don't like how somebody talks, if it's an accent or if it's just the way they speak, maybe they're too nasally or whatever, like me, sometimes that's just a turnoff. And you can't really control that. It's just the way that is. Hannah just has a voice where it's smooth, it's calming, it's all that stuff. And, if you look at some of the comments of any of these behind the scenes videos of Hannah, when she did the cat interview just a few days ago, right? You see that response where it's like, it's kind of just being like tucked in and like read a story. And I really think that gives her an advantage and gives Max an advantage. That's not the only thing. Like, yeah, if your voice is like soothing, that's great. But if your character sucks, obviously it's not going to do much. But I did want to throw that out. I think Hannah really takes on the role of Max. It's pretty much her same voice. She goes, I would say, just like a small pitch difference. There is like a slight difference between her voice and Max's, at least back in the day. Now it sounds like it's a little bit more aligned, but those are parts of it, okay? The rest of it, I honestly would say relatability is a big thing. And here's the interesting thing. Like, while people talk about so many different themes that Life is Strange had, I've mentioned this before, Life is Strange 1, specifically talking Max, specifically talking Life is Strange 1, it has so many themes and it has so many things going on and so many like B-side plots that kind of like cycle throughout that the entire game doesn't have to like mimic your life, but parts of it might. Just because there's so much going on, right? Like the Kate arc is honestly, I mean, I guess it's big, but relative, it's kind of small. It really takes center stage in episode 2. If you make the wrong decisions, Kate is literally gone. She'll appear, I believe, in the nightmare sequence in 5. But, in general, like, it's 2.5 hour thing. And it's not like she's the main character of episode 2. She's there, she's important, and the climax is kind of her. But my point being, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And while Kate herself and what she goes through, maybe you can't relate with, but other people maybe can relate with, right? And I think that's the point, or that's one of the big draws of the entirety of Life is Strange 1, is there's so much going on. And there's also so much going on with Max. And I think you can relate to, like, a part of her, even if you're not a freaking teenage girl, right? When I played the game, I'm the same age, okay, as Max Caufield is, like, canonically, right? So I was 18 when she was 18. I'm 28 when she's 28 now, okay? Maybe she turns 29 or whatever it is, but I'm close. So while when I'm playing it, I can't relate as like it's an 18-year-old girl. I was 18-year-old boy. You can still take some of her personality and say maybe you know somebody like that, or maybe you can just resonate with her. But relatability is a part of it. And I would just say her ability of like understanding and compassionate, I think that's kind of a big one. I think in a lot of these games, and I'm not saying like I don't like don't like this kind of side of games. But, some games are more over the top. Like, you think, even again, if you want to kind of break it down to like male versus female, you think of like a Lara Croft, like some of the all-time great female characters. I honestly think of like several Mass Effect characters in Tali or like Liara in them. But they're like otherworldly. I mean, actually, those last two are literal aliens, and they're out there blowing things up and shooting and whatnot. Max is once again kind of bringing it back to Earth. She's a teenage girl, right? I think that makes it a little bit more relatable, but also just kind of puts it into this world that we can kind of understand. And I think because it's a little bit more grounded in that way, it allows us to take on her role. But I believe it's the compassionate kind of side to her. I think, she honestly tries to help a lot. Even if you don't, like, even if you choose not to do those things, you're still kind of helping out. Like, if you ignore Kate's phone call in the beginning of episode 2, you're doing it to spend time with Chloe, your best friend, right? The entirety of the game, whether you like it or not, is saving Chloe over and over again. You know what I mean? So, like, her default personality is to help others. And I mean, yeah, other games have, characters helping others, but I think it's just kind of the tone and the way that she does it that has her kind of stand out a little bit more. She also doesn't let the powers kind of go to her head where it becomes so unbelievable. It's weird because, like, for me, when the discussion, around the internet, you always see about that relatability thing. And I don't know, like, for me, I can play as another gender, I can play as an alien, or I can, whatever it might be. I can play as any of these characters, and I can just take pieces of them. Like, I don't know, I don't get too in the weeds of like, I need the game to represent me, because I'm always trying to see, okay, well, the game's going to represent itself, right? The game's going to be what it wants to be, and I'm going to take pieces of that I can maybe relate to. I can't really relate to Sora from Kingdom Hearts, just on the basis, from like, he's fighting Heartless and he's friends with Donald and freaking Goofy, right? Like, that's not relatable to me, but his heart, his passion for helping others, honestly, actually, Sora and Max are somewhat related in that way, and they're both Square Enix characters. So, but you know what I mean? Like, that's what I kind of take from Max as well, where it's like, she can be whoever she wants. She can have whatever relationship with whatever people she wants. I don't care what she identifies as. I don't care about any of that. I care about who she is as a person, which is, in that way, it's more relatable to me. It's like, you can either have somebody like that in your life that maybe you relate to, or maybe you can try to like take some of what Max does. But I don't know. I think it's part of her calmness. I think it's her ability to help people. I think it's kind of not getting too like ego boosting, where it would kind of almost disconnect from that grounded nature. She's just honest. For me, she's just a really likable, almost like down-to-earth girl. And another thing is, I've talked about this before, even a little bit with Double Exposure. This might sound weird, but even like the way she talks, and I would actually expand that, the way she thinks, like that's another maybe not relatable thing, but she's just kind of weird. Like I don't mean that in any disrespect. In fact, again earlier, Hannah really is Max. She is a little bit like that. Like you watch the cat interview, and I mean she just has some phrases or just some of her jokes. Like I don't know. Like I mean I don't make jokes like that, and it just seems like just a bit off in like the best way possible, where it's really unique. I think unique without I don't know. Maybe like I was too insulting in the last like 30 seconds, but I think uniqueness is actually another really big one where Max and I guess Hannah is really one of a kind. You know, you don't really know many people that do everything like Max. You don't really you don't have many gamed characters. Like I said, like you might have aspects of it. You might have that helpful nature. You might have characters that have superpowers. You might have characters that have like a childhood best friend. All this kind. You might have a character that like internally thinks and processes stuff like 99% of the time, which she does, right? But can you have all of those things together on top of other things of like, you know, she's pretty shy and she's pretty reserved, but she still kind of has that positive energy and the like the Shaka bra, and you know she's got a lot of like legendary kind of lines, but also kind of like sometimes cringy, like sometimes kind of like ooh, like it's such a weird thing to say that line there, or you know that's not really funny, but it is kind of funny because she's saying it. She just has this like weird pull to her character. It's actually, you know, describing Max and describing why I like her is harder than I thought it was going to be. I don't pre-plan. I don't like pre-write things down. Maybe I should have, but I think that actually helps the cause because I think she is unique. I think she's actually kind of hard to nail everything down on of like, oh yeah, this is exactly what makes her tick. It's actually just kind of the uniqueness of her that makes her tick. But, you know, I really do love her as a character, and this is a character that I want done right. It's, you know, we've talked about that 1,000 times going into Double Exposure. You know, it actually, I think, increases like the magnitude of how important of a character she is when I defend her as much, right? Because my main thing, I think above all else, I mean, like tell a good story, tell a new story, make a good game. Those are very important things to me as a consumer of these products and, you know, as a YouTuber and all that stuff. But going into Double Exposure, honestly, my main thing this entire time has always been like protecting Max Caufield. Not necessarily like from death. I mean, I don't want them to kill her off, but it's literally like she is so legendary and she's just so like, I don't know, like the aura of her is so big. And again, that connects to, that's why they brought her back. They brought her back because I think it's a mix of they had a story to tell with her, but they know what she means to Life is Strange fans. Her game sold the most by miles. And I think it's the best one personally, right? And so, you know, all of that stuff kind of mixes in. But the fact that I have defended it so much, right, is like, well, yeah, it's because I care. So if I didn't care about her character, I wouldn't care about what they do to her in this new game. But I do care because I care about her character. So I just kind of wanted to throw this video together, see if it made any sense to you guys. But you let me know what's the main thing with Max, or a couple things with Max that makes you like her so much as a character. Let me know. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel. Bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.